ain't bringing dope, I'm bringing hope, baby. Hey, we're back for episode 2. Oh, baby! What's up, everybody? This is your local neighborhood hope dealer, Money Monty, and the host of the 90 and 90 podcast. Hey, guys, we love the feedback. Please continue to write in the comments. We will continue to answer your questions, and please continue to spread the show out there. This is episode 2. Continue to spread it out there to your family or anyone else that is struggling in addiction. Let's just continue to get the word out there. We'll continue to spread the good news, and we'll continue to save lives right here, because that's what we want to do right here. We want to save lives, and I am the hope dealer, not the dope dealer, baby. I'm selling hope. I'm spreading hope all across the world, guys. Today on episode 2, we're going to talk about acceptance. We have to accept exactly where we are at that given moment to be able to have our hearts open, to be able to surrender to a higher power greater than ourselves, guys. Today on the second episode, we have Brian Davidson, an amazing story, awesome man, an alcoholic, or as he would say, a straight thoroughbred. And he had continued to struggle with alcohol his whole entire life. He's doing well right now. He's continued to learn from his last relapse, because on a relapse, guys, we have to understand that it gets progressively worse. It never gets better. And all we can do is learn from that relapse. We can't do anything else but learn from it, so we can control the obsession of the mind. So the obsession of the mind tries to tell you to go back out there, and now you know by your last relapse that it gets progressively worse, guys. Like I said, today's episode is going to be on acceptance, and we're going to learn how to surrender. Let's have a great day. Hey, it's time to get sober. Let's go, baby. Guys, how you doing today, man? Hey, you ready to do this? Let's go, baby. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready to spread some light on addiction right here, guys. I'm ready to continue to spread the good news, because my mess is now a message. I'm 1,115 days clean. I count the days and I make the days count, baby. Hey, I loved your guys' comments. Please continue to put comments out there. Put your clean date in there, man. Hey, we'll announce it on the podcast. We want to show love, man. We want to continue to make sobriety be fun, guys. We want to continue to talk about acceptance in episode 2, guys. Hey, and if you're going to go let's pick up one of these right here, one of these clean drinks, all right? 50% of all proceeds go back to recovery, guys. Once I was able to accept the fact that I was not going to play in the big leagues no more, that I was now a junkie, that I was going to face felony probation, that I was going to go do jail time, that I had lost my whole family, that I had lost everything that I ever cared in my life, pretty much. I accepted that, and now I was able to have the open heart, and I was able to finally surrender, and I was able to go with the Lord's will and not my own will, because my own will got me to a jail cell floor, guys. But let's continue to spread the good news, guys. This is going to be episode 2. Our guest today is big man, big boy, big dog named Big Brian Davidson right here, baby. He's going to spread his story, his experience, his strength, and his hope, and he's going to shed some light on acceptance. How you doing today, Big Brian?
Good, Monty. Doing well. Thank you for having me.
Super thankful for you to come on and share your experience. And you've had some ups and downs. You've had some relapses, and you've bounced back. So we're going to learn a lot today about recovery. And we want to hear your experience, your strength, your hope. We kind of want to hear where it all started for you, man.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about acceptance. Yeah. I did not want to accept the fact that I was an alcoholic. Mm-hmm. It was there's little else in the world that I wish I was. Mm-hmm. So it was hard for me. It was really difficult for me. Mm-hmm. Step one, so we admitted we were powerless over alcohol. Didn't want to admit I was powerless. Mm-hmm. Just really didn't want anything to do with it. I could maintain periods of sobriety, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months, things like that. But all it was sobriety. It wasn't actual recovery.
Yeah, I like that.
For most of my professional life, I was in the restaurant and bar business. Pretty much right out of high school. When I was 18 years old, a bartender was the only thing in the world I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everything that held my interest at the time, bartending served. It was basically one-stop shopping for everything that I wanted to do. Yeah. So I got into that, and again, it's for a long time the unmanageability that comes with alcoholism didn't really manifest itself for a while. Yeah. I was always a hard partier, hard drinker, but was still able to actually live my life. Yeah. Go to work, pay the bills. I hadn't gotten to the point to where I'd eventually get to, which I heard it described not too long ago. It's called as drinking against your will, which is what it eventually came to for me.
But, I like that.
I like that description too. That's just one I recently heard. But no, right off the bat, it wasn't like that. I mean, it was just, hard and fast living. With alcohol, I mean, I was pretty much either on one side of the bar or the other. I kind of justified my lifestyle that way. I worked hard, so I played hard.
Yeah.
And still, wanted to do a good job. It was, bartended, I got into bar management right around the age of 24. At that point, I was, I was kind of wanting to run the show. That's kind of part of my personality, and something that, made acceptance difficult, made surrendering difficult. Yeah. Ran my life on self-will for a long time, and it was not until I came up against alcoholism that I saw that was not going to work. Yeah. But prior to that, that's just basically, I was really, during those early years, I didn't really understand the terminology at the time. I wasn't familiar with it, but what I wanted was life on my terms. Yeah. I wanted to do exactly what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. Yeah. And I was happy living that way. And that went on for a long time. And like you mentioned earlier, I eventually moved to Florida, and ended up just really kind of at the right place at the right time. I got a job running a nightclub out there, and it's very lucrative. It was hard, interesting work, but as time went on, and my drinking, just really got worse and worse. Again, it was, I could see it, I could feel it coming to a point. For me, the job was always more important than everything else. It superseded everything else. And I always felt like, as long as I can get up and go to work, then I don't really have a problem. Yeah. I'm not an alcoholic. That's basically what I was telling myself. Yeah. Quite sure I was an alcoholic at the time. Again, it just didn't, it hadn't gotten to that point yet. It was later in my life after the death of my father when that actually happened. I didn't handle that really well, and I turned basically to a trusted old friend to help me deal with that. Began to drink very heavily, and that's kind of that's basically when it happened to me. At some point in there, I began to drink against my will. It wasn't a social thing for me anymore. Yeah. There was really no joy in it. It became something that I had to do. Yeah. Wake up in the morning, have it. At that point, that's when it had gone too far. It was basically passing the point of no return for me.
So I understand. So you're like saying kind of you woke up and you felt like you had to drink to just be able to function that day. Did it get to that point?
Yeah. At a certain point, my life just became to drink. I would get up. I had to have it to drink. If I didn't have it, I would start shaking. I was physically dependent on alcohol. Yeah. I would sleep, but you don't really sleep. Yeah. I mean, 3 or 4 hours here and there. And, those were really, really dark years, before I'd actually tried to do anything about it. Yeah. During that time, I really honestly didn't expect to come out of it. I didn't think I would survive it. Yeah. And that's sort of the darkness, I guess, that, true addicts and alcoholics know about it. It's hard to describe that darkness to people that don't have it. Yeah. I think most people, when you talk to them about alcoholism, addiction, everyone's sympathetic, but unless you have it, it's really, really hard to know exactly what that point is. Yeah. That just, like I said, darkness is the best way I know how to describe it. Yeah,
I know our addictions take us to like some of the darkest places. There's normies out there that like to them doing something bad is like stealing a cookie from the cookie jar. You know what I'm saying? And for us in our addiction, we've taken ourselves to pretty low lows, to pretty bad areas in life. So sometimes we feel like we're helpless and we have no hope. But like I say, I'm the hope dealer. So if you want to come get some hope, you got me right here, baby. Right. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, for me in my life, Big Brian, I love baseball. I loved baseball my whole life. I would throw balls up against the garage, man, over and over. Tennis balls. I would play. My mom would hit fly balls to me in the backyard over and over again. I trained so hard. I loved baseball with my whole heart so much, guys. And drugs are so powerful, and alcohol and drugs and addiction is so powerful that all the way till 28 years old, I can tell when I look back in hindsight, everything seems to make sense. You know what I'm saying? And at 28 years old, when I put the amphetamine in my body, it was so overwhelmingly amazing. I loved it. And it literally took me away from what I loved, baseball. And now I was heading into a whole nother direction, you know, and it took me to exactly where it says jails, institutions, or death. Right. And for me, I'm thankful that I'm not dead. But at 28 years old, guys, I did absolutely start going into a whole nother direction, and I stepped away. And my baseball career at that point only lasted 4 more years, you know. And then, like I said, because of tolerance, at first you don't really think you have a problem. At first it's amazing. You're like, oh man, I love this. This is what I need. I love it. And then you're around people, and then you're in that lifestyle. Like you were working around the bars and the restaurants. You're in Fort Lauderdale. That's like right outside of Miami. You know what I'm saying? It's an awesome place. You know, I've been out there, you know, and then you got Tampa Bay, you got Ybor City, you know, you got the nightlife out there, and it's just absolutely amazing, you know, because I believe in early recovery, guys, especially if you're out there and you're struggling, you know, and you're really not knowing where to start at. Acceptance is a really good thing, because then you can finally accept everything that happened to you. You know, I had to accept that I wasn't going to play baseball. I had to accept the fact that I was going to go to jail. I had to accept the fact that I was a junkie. I had to accept the fact I've lost everything in my life. But by finally accepting it and saying, okay, I need to go another way in life. I need to repent. I need to change directions. I was able to finally surrender to a higher power greater than mine. And now I've gone on the last 3 years and 2 weeks. I've actually gone with God's will and not my will. And I've lived, my life has been changed dramatically, you know, and sober is fun. And at first, guys, it's hard, you know, because you got this obsession, you got this, your addiction doesn't want to leave your body. So it's like, why do I do this? What route do I go? Well, check this out. Check the search engine, put in 90 and 90 podcast, and you'll start right here with our show. You know what I'm saying? And we'll spread the good news, and you'll start to hear people sharing their experience, their strength, your hope. Like I said, you'll hear the hope dealer sharing his story, and we can just continue to keep the chain going, the chain of success, you know, just continuing to share stories over and over again. But acceptance is where you can start. It's the one thing when you have nothing left, guys, you can start to accept exactly where you're at, and then you can have your heart penetrated with some type of love, you know, higher power. For me, I believe in Jesus. I believe he died on the cross, and he's going to continue to bridge that gap so I can have a higher power that I just love. You know, I have an amazing relationship with him. So when I talk about acceptance, let me hear your story on how you finally accepted that you were an addict and you needed to get help.
When I made the decision at a certain point, you know, when I was talking about this darkness, I thought, you know what, I don't want to go out like this. I want to try to do something about it. Mm-hmm. You know, so the first thing I did, I started, you know, to call people that I thought could help me with that. And everybody said the same thing, you know, read the book.
You reached out. You reached out. I love that.
Right. So read the book, and you know, and so I did. And, you know, and I read it again because, you know, I really couldn't believe I don't know what I was expecting. I wasn't expecting, you know, what I was reading because, you know, the alcoholism it's a spiritual malady. It is a spiritual illness. I had a real hard time accepting that. I think what I wanted when I got into recovery was a how-to manual, you know, something like how you fix a sink or something like that. I had a real hard time coming to terms with what you need to do actually to fully recover. So acceptance came hard for me. I didn't like the terminology. I did not like powerless.
Hey, just like we got to accept these airplanes flying over one after another. Hey, we got to accept it though. If we accept it, we stay positive and we move and groove, baby. Keep going. Thank you, bro.
Right. But, you know, when I was young, and you can relate to this, you know, having been a pro athlete, coaches kind of figured into my value systems. I played organized sports when I was a kid as soon as I could start playing. So a lot, and you know how these guys are. I mean, coaches basically all say the same things. You know, it's varying degrees of profanity, but they're all basically talking about the same thing. You know, they talk about, you know, commitment and teamwork and all this, and these are all good things. Okay, but you know, but there's a side to it that I kind of latch on to, that's sort of the hyper competitive part. The part that's, you know, a little bit arrogant, you know, and it's surrender, powerless. These were words that I had a real issue with. I thought that, you know, I've never achieved any type of success at all surrendering to anything or admitting powerlessness. So, yeah, for the longest time, and you can't do anything in recovery until you accept it and until you surrender. That's why, for me, it took so long. When I finally came to the point, I would look at the program, and there were certain things about it that I liked. I liked going to meetings, you know, and I liked being around recovery. What I did not ever want to do was the actual work, you know, doing the step work, doing a 4th step, doing a 5th step, making amends, things like this. I was afraid of actually doing that stuff. And probably not for the reasons that a lot of people are afraid of. It's, a lot of people don't want to do a 4th step because, they don't want to drag their baggage out there. Me, I was afraid it wasn't going to work. And if it didn't work, then what was left? So I basically tried to create my own program just through staying involved with recovery, going to meetings. And this would provide, periods of sobriety, but not actual recovery. The obsession itself would never completely go away. Had 100% fully accepted it. Now, it's easy, at a relapse, after you've basically burned the village down and you feel awful and you're just like, I've got to do something about this. Where it gets hard is after you've been clean for 6, 7, 8 months and you start to kind of feel the pain of that relapse and you start to think, well, maybe I'm really not, That's obviously you haven't accepted the fact of what you are. And that was my problem for a very long time. When I finally actually really came to acceptance was just, I can remember it clearly, I was sitting at DFW Airport prior to coming out here. After my last relapse, I'd finally said, look, this isn't working. My way is not working. I've tried every possible way I can think of to do it my way, not the way it's actually designed in the book. I'd made the decision that that's how I was going to do it. I was basically going to come to San Diego and do it that way. That was my acceptance. And I can clearly remember sitting there at the airport thinking, don't even bother getting on this plane, man, if you're not going to do it the right way this time. It was a watershed moment for me. I feel like that's when I finally truly accepted the fact that, look, you're an alcoholic and this is not going to fix itself. You're going to have to do this the right way.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Like we talked about, you said you saw one of my videos, and I talked about recovery and abstinence or sobriety. The difference between recovery and the difference between sobriety. And recovery to me is running the program. Getting out there, going to meetings, shedding the good news, spreading the good news, going out there, sharing your story, sharing your testimony. The Lord pulled you through some pain. Now you pull another through some pain. That's what keeps you on that pink cloud back there. You know what I'm saying? Recovery keeps you on the pink cloud. All right. Sobriety and abstinence is just taking the drug out of your body and thinking that you're going to be able to fix yourself. That's not. You're going to end up becoming what we call a dry drunk or a dry addict. You're not going to feel good because your only solution that you ever had was going to that drug or that alcohol. So we have to be able to have recovery. It sounds like before you came to this last time of acceptance that you were living a life of sobriety or abstinence, that you were removing the alcohol from your body, but you weren't actually running a program. And what happened is the only solution you had ever had was to drink. You ended up going back to your only solution. This time it sounds like, and I love hearing you share at the meetings, Brian, at the H&I panels, you can just hear it in your spirit. You can see it in your voice. You can just see it right now as we're talking, that this time you finally accepted the fact that you had to surrender to the program of AA, or, you had to surrender to the big book. You had to surrender to what it talks about. You had to do the steps. You had to find your higher power. And it sounds like, you're on your way you're headed towards that pink cloud, baby. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to get that out there, just the difference between sobriety and abstinence, and I wanted to talk about too, I wanted to share about relapse, because I know you went through the Salvation Army out in Dallas, and you worked for the Salvation Army. So you had a relapse after you went to the Salvation Army. So then you came back and you went through the Salvation Army in San Diego, and you changed people, places, and things. But we all know that we end up taking ourselves with us. Right. So we have to be able to get on
everywhere you go, you are.
Yeah, everywhere you go, you're right there. You know what I mean? And so what's different this time? You came, did you realize that when you relapsed that it got progressively worse? I know that I had 8 months sober one time and I told myself I was going to smoke dope. I ended up putting the drug in my body. I had the needle in my arm and it got so progressively worse. I now was around the worst people of my whole entire life. And now I finally caught a felony and I took my drug addiction to the bitter end, guys. Like I literally wanted to do methamphetamine for my whole entire life, but you just can't do it. The well will run dry. You will get older. You'll get to an age where you lose everything. You know what I'm saying? You lose absolutely everything that you ever had, to where I literally at 37 years old, guys, I mean, it's hard to believe because I'm such a sexy dude now, but I was 180 pounds with a missing front tooth, you know what I'm saying? With big old ears, I look like a cartoon character. So I'm super thankful for what the Lord has done in my life. But if we can shed some light on relapse and like how it does get progressively worse and how the obsession will try to take you out to go just do one more, guys, and how fentanyl now, it's getting people to go out there and do one more and they're dying.
Having experience with fentanyl myself, all I know is that these guys are putting it into the stuff that these kids are using and it's killing them.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. we got to do something about that.
Yeah, we do. We definitely, we got to fix that. We got to get the awareness out there. And like I said, we work in the same place, and we got a lot of young kids, and they're getting on the fentanyl so young,
Right.
and right now they're finding it in all types of different pills. They're finding it in cocaine. They're finding it in marijuana. I watched a documentary just right before the show today, and they're finding it everywhere, and it's up in the rich areas, it's down in the poor areas,
Right.
and it's an absolute problem right now, and it's coming across the border in rapid amounts. The cartels are getting it over here, and it's just unbelievable. And we got to really get the awareness out there, because like you said, they're not even reaching their rock bottom. Like, we can sit here and we can talk about our rock bottom and how bad our addiction got. These kids are dying, and now they're 6 feet under, you know what I mean? And we're having candlelights over and over for these kids, and it's just such a shame. Now, I want to talk about the steps. For me, a nice rundown on the steps. We got the first 3 steps. We got to find God. We have to find a higher power. It's very, very, very important. It's, to me, what gives me joy and happiness every day is being able to walk right with God and hiding nothing from nobody. I don't live in the dark no more. I do not live in the dark, and I got my integrity back. And that's what the steps did for me. They gave me my integrity back, And
Right.
steps 4 through 9, they helped me clean out all my baggage, right? So then step 10 comes along, and now I do my moral inventory, which I do every single day. I do my moral inventory, and it's called the filter step in my mind. It keeps me focused in the moment so I can seize the moment with good intent. And then I have the 11th step, which is the spiritual step. I get on my knees every morning. I wake up early at 5 every day, and it's a sign of gratitude. I ask the Lord for his will and the strength to carry it out, because I know my will got me on a jail cell floor in Claremont, California, with needle track marks all over my body. And then I got the 12 steps, and I call this the bread and butter, baby. This is spreading the good news. This is what I love to do. I love to share the message, because there was a time in my addiction, guys, where I would be sitting in a bathroom trying to find a vein in my arm, and I'm just thinking to myself, I used to play pro baseball, and I've reached these depths of hell,
Right.
These unbelievable, horrible places, and now I've been able to be redeemed by God, and now I'm able to go somewhere every single night. I can go to a meeting, and I can get up there at the podium, and I can share the good news on how I got clean and sober, and I'm actually saving lives. Like, I'm an actual asset on this planet. I'm not a liability anymore, and it just feels absolutely amazing, man. So what's your experience with the steps, and how have they affected your life?
Well, I mean, it made all the difference. It's the one thing that I've been missing, and it is the most important thing. I committed to going into it, and I still wasn't completely 100% sold on it. But, like we talk about in recovery, sometimes you come to the last house on the block, and that's once you've tried everything else, and you're not ready to give up. You have to try the last thing. Yeah. So that's what I did. I ended up, as soon as I got to the Salvation Army here in San Diego, finding a strong sponsor became real important. I got very fortunate with the one that I got. Yeah. We got into the steps. So I went into the 4th step, and I started doing it, and I'm writing down all these resentments, and the first ones came very easy. Maybe the first 25 or 30 of them. And after that, you dig in, because you have to do it thoroughly. I felt like, if I'm going to go ahead and do this, let's do it right. Let's do it thoroughly. Let's get it all out there. That's how it works. That was a shock. When I first started doing it, I felt worse. I'm like, I'm upset. But it finally dawned on me that I'm upset at some people that, people from well back in my past. Half these people are probably dead by now. Coaches that I, that I didn't agree with, or girlfriends from high school that I felt like did me wrong. Things like this. I'm still holding on. I don't think about these consciously every day, but obviously still holding on to it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that is the strength of the 4th step. You got to clear all that away so that you're not. And that's what I discovered after I went through my 4th step and did the 5th step with my sponsor. He said, take an hour after we're done. That's how the book tells you need to do it, and reflect on what you. So I did. Went out to the basketball court. I played basketball, and that's when I really saw the value of what I just done. I felt like there was balance restored that I'd been missing for a long time. That's the best way I know how to describe it. And it was even more so when when you get to the 9th step and you actually start making amends. Yeah. That was restoring balance to relationships that needed to be cleaned up. Yeah. Again, that for me, the steps for me brought me back into balance, and I was able to see the value of living on spiritual principles. That's the big thing with me, because I did. Once I got serious about doing the steps, I took a long, hard look at them, tried to analyze it, and I looked at it and I thought basically what this is that the steps are trying to do is build people who are honest, responsible, and accountable. Yeah. If you look at all 12 of the steps, either every step relates to one, two, or all three of those things. Those are what I consider to be spiritual principles. That's how I try to operate now. And it talks about in step 6. A lot of guys will look at step 6. I know I used to. We became entirely ready to have God remove all of our shortcomings. Yeah, that's easy enough to say, but I mean, are you really ready for that? Yeah, I mean, because it's harder. You have to be a stand-up guy. You can't just be honest, accountable, and responsible when it's convenient or when it doesn't get in your way. Yeah. If you're going to work a program, if you're going to live on spiritual principles, you have to do that all the time. Yeah. That's what I was looking at doing, and that's, again, that's what I felt like I was ready to do. Yeah. Having done the step work, because that's how, in the book it says, we have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. You have to do it every day. Yeah. Steps 10, 11, 12. Yeah. Once I was able to actually see the value of it, saw that it actually does work, that all these guys weren't just putting one over on me. Yeah, yeah. At that point, I mean, it became really easy. It became, I got excited about doing it. Yeah. I'm happier this way. I'm a better person this way. Awesome. I am of service to people. I look for opportunities to be of service. That's why I do the H&I panels with you at the Salvation Army. It's and again, it's God puts these opportunities in our life when we're ready for them. And you said the day you sent me the text saying, "Hey man, I might have an opportunity here for you." I sat there and I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? that was not me. I had never considered anything like that. Yeah. That's what we call a God shot in the program. Yeah. I think I thought this is probably what I need to do. This is what I want to do. I feel like this is something I can do. I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, that's the thing that's important for, I believe, having a higher power is that we can't control everything, but we don't know what God's working in the backdrop. We don't know what the Lord's working behind the scenes while we're continuing to seize the moment with good intent. And what happened was Brian, I was at work, and our director of operations, Mitch, he came in, he said, "Hey man, I need some good Salvation Army guys, right. And you're one of the first ones that popped in my head." And that's how God's working behind the scenes, and that's why the higher power is important, because for me, things that I have weakness of, I just give them up to God, and he ends up taking care of it for me. So I don't stress, I don't future trip, I have faith, I don't stumble on something behind me, Sure. And like you said, with working the 4th step, I love on the 4th step when you said that knowing your part. So for me, I had all these resentments with the Astros and like all these people that had done me wrong, or like high school sweetheart cheating on me, all these things I had all these resentments on, but then I started to learn that what was my part in them, what was my behavior in them. And then I learned sayings. You get around the rooms and you hear, older people with some clean time, they say resentments are like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So, right. I'm like, oh, okay. So resentments aren't good at all. They're never good. And that's the whole point of the 10th step, is to do the moral inventory every day so you keep your resentments down, And sure. There's another one I heard someone say that resentments were like the cocaine of emotions. Once you start to do them, you can't start, and they end up taking your whole entire life, And I love that. That's the thing about getting into the rooms and showing up to meetings, is you get all this knowledge from these people that have sobriety, and these people that have recovery, and they're running a program, and they're on their pink cloud, you know what I'm saying? And they've continued to change their whole entire life, and it's a blessing. And then one thing about doing the amends system, I was like, well, what if somebody died, or what if there's situations where I can't make the amends? And someone told me, hey, there's a such thing as the living amends. And that helped me out so much to know that as long as I stay clean and sober, I'm making an amends to everybody, you know what I'm saying? Right. And then I was at the Salvation Army in San Bernardino. I graduated from the Salvation Army in San Bernardino, and we went on COVID lockdown. So when I look back at my life now, since I got clean, I feel like God has had his hand in so many things. And when we went on COVID lockdown right there, we had nobody that can come in or come out of the center. So what they did, they allowed me to share my story. So 4 times a week, I was up on the stage getting the guys motivated in the morning. Right. You know what I'm saying? And when else in this lifetime would this ever have happened, where I'm able to go on a stage, I'm able to motivate a bunch of guys, you know what I'm saying? And how the whole thing, the Hope Dealer started, Everyone at the San Bernardino Salvation Army were like, oh yeah, I sell dope.
dope and I do this and I sell dope. They're like, hey, what do you do, Monty? I said, I sell hope, baby. I'm the hope dealer. And it was birthed that day, you know, and I've carried it on, and now I'm the hope dealer, baby. So if you guys want to go out there and get some dope, say no to dope and say yes to hope, baby, right here. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But hey, like I said, I'm super thankful for the 12 steps. You know, it's a backdoor spiritual awakening because our lives are on the line, guys. Our lives are on the line. We could die. You know what I'm saying? We could die from this. Like I said, the addiction, the disease of addiction is the only disease in the world that is trying to kill you slowly. Every other disease in the world, we're trying to survive. Cancer, we want to survive, we want to live. You know what I'm saying? Right. But with addiction, we're killing ourselves slowly, one day at a time. And it will take you to institution, jails, and death. That's the only future you have. And it never gets better. You don't hear of nobody relapsing and turning their whole life around and being successful. All you hear about is that hopefully they didn't die, or they're probably back in jail, or they're in another detox somewhere. That's all you ever hear, man. The drugs are not the solution no more. And we got to think about recovery. You can't just take the drug out of your body and think that you're going to feel good, because now you're taking away the only solution you ever had. We got to have recovery. We got to work the steps, guys. Like I said, you can't take an elevator to sobriety. You have to work the steps. You got to go to meetings so you can see the fresh pain. Sometimes we can get very, very, very confident in our sobriety and in our recovery that we don't realize how bad it really was. So for me to go to the meetings and see that fresh pain and help that fresh addict is what it's all about. That's why we get clean and sober. That's God pulling us through the pain, and now us helping somebody else get through the pain. That's the whole process. That's why we sponsor, guys. That's why we have sponsees. That's why I have a sponsor. It's a chain of success, man. It's having the mentor, someone that can come into your life and he can help you out, man. I know that you have an amazing sponsor. Your sponsor's amazing. He sponsors a lot of guys. He knows the big book like the back of his hand, and he's just an amazing guy. And how was it for you to actually have a really good sponsor come into your life, a mentor that actually really talked to your heart and really was able to have recovery sink into you?
Really the most important thing. You know, again, it's when you're going through the Salvation Army program, you're on kind of a time limit. You know, you have to, it's a structured program, you know, and with some of these guys, you need to have a sponsor by this time. And so you're not actually, you have to put a little bit of that in God's hands, which I did, you know, trying to work on, you know, letting God do what he does. Said, look, I'm gonna pray about this. I'm gonna put this in your hands.
There you go.
And now he brought the exact perfect one for me. You know, you know all these guys. They're all, you know, they do the panel with us. These guys walk the walk. I mean, they are my kind of guys. I mean, they are serious about recovery and about what they do. For somebody like me, that was perfect. That's what I needed. You know, I did not need a soft sponsor. I did not need an easier, softer way, as the book talks about. I needed hardcore, and that's what I got. You know, and that's basically my approach to it as well. You know, the thing, you talk about God and the spiritual side of it, God always does his job, right? I mean, God is never going to say, you know, I forgot to do that, or sorry, I was late, or anything like that. You can count on that. Okay, you can count on God always doing his job. So really all that leaves you is what your job is. And as it's been explained to me, and as I try to do, and that's to live on spiritual principles, be of service to others. Since I've committed to doing that and doing that type of thing, then God has come through famously for me. I mean, everything that I've got going on right now that is positive, none of it was my idea, and all of it is better than I would have planned for myself.
I love that. I mean,
you know,
I absolutely love that.
And it was really the first time in my life I could consciously remember saying, you know, I'm bad about worrying about stuff that I have no control over. That's God's stuff. That's what you give to him. You worry about what you can do. Let him do his job. Because he's always going to do it.
He's always going to do it.
Now, it's not necessarily going to be exactly like you'd want it. But if you are working a program, if you are spiritually fit, you're able to handle it when it comes along without using drugs or alcohol as your solution. You know, again, if you're not in spiritually fit condition, if you're not working a program, I think relapse is inevitable. It is for me. It's been proven time and time again.
It's a spiritual experience. You know, if you take the spirituality out of the big book, if you take all the pages about spirituality out of the big book's like this thick. It takes almost the whole book away, man. Hey, it's kind of crazy. I feel like our new guest, Maverick from Top Gun, is trying to come in. I don't understand, you know. Hey, Maverick, I think you're next week, sir.
That's right. It's a little bit early. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with me, that's the biggest difference. working the steps again. I went into it not 100% sure I believed it was going to work. It did. It's worked well beyond what I thought, and that's sort of how I pitch it to other people, and I'm talking to people asking me, do you think it'll work for me? I was like, look, nobody believed in it less than me. Yeah. It really didn't. I mean, and the evidence was everywhere. I see so many people that it's worked for and still went into it not completely believing it. It's just character flaw on my part. But, again, I had to get to the last house on the street to where I had to try it, and certainly wish I'd done it sooner. It saved myself a lot of pain.
Yeah,
but,
most definitely. I know they like to say that Salvation Army is the last house on the block, you know. And there's, one experience, that all of us have in our addiction, and a normie might not ever have, And I just wanted to ask you on a couple of experiences you had. But have you ever been on the show Cops?
Right.
Share us about your little bit of experiences with the law, because we know that the drugs and the alcohol, they do take us to the darkness. They take us to experiences. For me, with the police, I used to think they were like the knights of the castle, and I was so scared of the police. And now, like the other day, I was in my apartment complex and two cops are walking through, and I walked up to them and I said, hey man, I just want to say hello, man. I was an ex-addict, I got 3 years sober, and you guys used to scare the heck out of me, man. And now I'm able to walk up to you with no fear, and I'm able to say hello, like I'm off probation, I'm moving and grooving, baby. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to ask you your experience. Just share your experience on any time you had with the law.
Yeah, certainly at least on one occasion, the Dallas police probably saved not only my life but other people's lives. I've had 2 DUIs, and they've been. Last one was approximately 20 years ago, but the driving under the influence of alcohol is an unbelievably irresponsible act. You put other people at risk. My father was a Dallas fireman, and he would rarely ever really talk about his work, except he would always tell me about the DUI wrecks. He was trying to make an impression on me, and he said almost without fail, when you see these, the drunk driver is usually the one that survives. It's the people that weren't doing anything, minding their own business. And you don't you're sitting in a jail cell and you start to sober up, or at least I did. That's when it really hit me. I was like, how irresponsible, how absolutely terrible. It's an awful thing to do. It really is. Driving, and not just alcohol, just driving under the influence of anything. You're behind thousands of pounds of metal, and you're not fit to be able to operate it. So really with me, I never really had any other legal troubles outside of that, but that's as bad as anything anyone else can do. Yeah. I mean, anything that you do that puts other people's lives in jeopardy through your own irresponsibility is, what's worse than that? Yeah,
I remember one time down in Ontario, I was sitting. I had a trap house, and we were sitting there. Everyone's doing drugs, and a girl comes in and she goes, "Monty, oh my God, the police are here for you." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay, so what do I do? I take off out the backyard. I jump the gate. I take off running down the street. You know what I'm saying? And I go and hide at my buddy's house. My buddy's house, and I'm sitting there and I wait like a couple hours, right? And then all of a sudden I step outside, and it's so crazy and how paranoid you are when you're on the drug, And I remember stepping outside the front door, and I remember seeing a cop car drive by, and the cop look right and look straight, and I'm like, oh man, oh my gosh, he saw me. I end up going on a walk. Down the street, and I end up thinking it's time to come back home. And as I'm walking down the street, there's a cop, and he sees me, and he busts a U-turn, and I take off running like 15 feet, and I realize like what I'm doing, and this cop comes flying around the corner, right? He's like he's flying, and he skids out around the corner, and I drop on the ground. He comes out with his gun drawn, and now they got the helicopter over me already, and I'm sitting here like, what the heck? Just because I ran in the wrong direction, he called out for the helicopter. Next thing you know, we got the cops coming, and then I'm sitting in the back of the cop car, and I'm strung out, and I'm at like the worst. This is like the worst year of my whole addiction, and they're coming up to the cop car, and they're like, oh, let me see him, let me get a look at him. And it was almost like they had won the World Series, like back when I won a championship, how we acted and how happy we were. That's how happy they were to get me off the streets. And I look at those times back in my addiction, and it's just so humbling, And now I want to talk about how I actually thank the police. Like, I thank my probation officer. I'm thankful for the cop that arrested me. I would love to go into Ontario PD, and I would love to let them see the person that I am today, because all they were trying to do was help me. This is what's walking with my higher power has changed in my life, is now I'm actually thankful for my past. Like I said, oh, hey, Lord, I never made it to the big leagues. Thank you. Oh, all my relationships didn't work out. Thank you. Oh, you became a junkie. Thank you. Because I believe now that the Lord, he let me be at the top. He let me have money. He let me be at that element. And then he let me be homeless. So now I can go down to the homeless camp and I can talk to them about how I was saved. Or I can go to a 5-star hotel and I could talk to somebody with money. You know, I believe that God took me to all these avenues so I can be able to be content in every single moment, you know, and I'm just super thankful for that, bro. Now I want to talk about, you know, right after recovery, you know, and like kind of like the habits that we learned in recovery. We're both Sally boys. We both went to the Salvation Army. I love the Salvation Army. Like I know you told me before this that you had no idea what the Salvation Army was. I had no idea. You know I got sentenced to the Salvation Army, and I know the judge looked at me and she said, "You're doing 365 days in the Salvation Army." She said, "Good luck." And I sat there like, what the heck? Good luck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I end up going there and I'm getting into the Salvation Army, and what they do is they do work therapy, which is amazing to me because the whole 6 months, it's like they say like you play house. Well, like it's like you're playing work, you know, but that's what real men do. Real men work 40 hours a week. So what they do is they pay you in ducats, which isn't cash, because they know if you get cash, you're going to go leave and you'll go relapse. So they pay you in fake money. I think it's genius. You know what I mean? You get your meetings in, and then they have the 30-day blackout period where you can't go outside of the facility. You know what I'm saying? You can't use your phone. These are things that are very beneficial to us because we don't want to meet the addict halfway, man. If an addict in early recovery is happy with you, you're probably enabling him. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They're not going to be happy when you're actually trying to save their life, you know, and getting the meetings in right there. And then the H&I panels that come into the facility are just absolutely amazing. And then you're moving and grooving. By the time you graduate, you're like one of the hardest workers in the U.S. You know what I'm saying? And inside the Salvation Army, you're using pallet jacks with one wheel. You know, you're wrapping your own.
I've done that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Hey, you're wrapping your own pallets, you know, with pallet wrap, you know, with shrink wrap, you know. And when I graduated from there, I went straight. For me, my experience, dude, I had to stay very focused right when I got out of the Salvation Army because I learned that the obsession will try to take you out right away. It's going to try to take you out. It's going to try to talk you into going back out there. For me, my obsession told me that, hey, Monty, have you really changed? Have you really changed? You're going to get that first paycheck, right, Monty? You're going to get that first paycheck, and you're going to go out there and use it. And these are all the fears that I've had. For me, I've kept my eyes on God, and he's carried me through. I gained momentum. Guys, we have to gain momentum. Super powerful word. You have to gain momentum in the Salvation Army. Early recovery, once you start to gain that momentum, I like to say this, I like to keep the ball rolling, okay? When I graduated from the Sal, I went right to a temp agency. So many people try to get a job at a certain place and this and that, and they can't find work. I went straight to a temp agency, and I had a job within the next morning at KEN Warehouse. Now, I stayed humble, guys, because the leaders among us must be servants. I woke up at 3:30 every morning, and guys, when you wake up at 3:30, it's so easy to just hit that alarm and not go to work. You got to have a lot of discipline, and discipline is what brings freedom, guys. And I got up every day and I rode my Diamondback bike, guys. I used to roll to the stadium in a brand new Toyota Tundra. Yeah, Diamondback, baby. Right. I used to roll to the stadium. I used to roll to the stadium in a brand new Toyota Tundra, and now I'm riding a bike because this is where my addiction took me. But now I'm humbling myself because I'm starting my foundation from the low. I'm starting my foundation at a point, and now I'm building myself up. For me, my foundation started when I accepted my past life, and then I surrendered to God. I put God first, and he started building me with this foundation that I'm able to handle all things through Christ that strengthens me. That's my motto. I can handle sick, I can handle poor, I can handle happy, I can handle sad, I can handle all things through Christ that strengthens me, guys. And I was able to go to a KEN Warehouse, and I woke up every morning at 3:30. I rode my bike. I started work at 5, and I got on the spot welder every single day. For me, my purpose is to share the good news. So this is what carried me through every season in my recovery. My purpose is going to the meetings and sharing the good news. That's my purpose. What we're doing right now, sharing our story, is what I was born to do. This is why God pulled me through the depths of hell, was so I can spread the good news and share my redemption story. This is all that matters to me. I ended up working 7 months at KEN Warehouse, and I ended up coming down to the Salvation Army. So I take a leap of faith because God is guiding me. I took a leap of faith and came down here to the San Diego ARC, and I wanted to become a resident manager, but they didn't have that open spot. So what they did is they made me the third key. You're aware of that. The third key is you work 5 days a week for the company, and then you do 2 days a week as a resident manager. So you're actually working every single day of the week. But because of my purpose on sharing the good news and doing the devotion and spreading the good news, I was able to get through this. I worked 96 days right there for the Salvation Army till when I finally got hired. I met my wife right there. So when I look at life and I look back, I'm like, everything has happened for a reason. Everything has happened for a reason. I met my wife right there, and then we ended up going over to La Jolla Recovery. I ended up working as the front desk BHT for 10 months, continuing to stay humble, continuing to stay sober, continuing to work my program, continuing to give back, continuing to share the good news. And finally, me and my wife saved enough money to get our own apartment. And now I completely live out of treatment now. I pay my own rent, I pay my own bills, and I completely live out of treatment. I'm not on no sober living, no nothing like that. And God has blessed me because of my change of perspective, guys. I don't believe it's not about what I receive. It's about who I become. Who I become is what's going to give you happiness. I know that when I was in my addiction, strung out on heroin and meth, I was not happy with who I was. But now I'm a man of God. I walk with the Lord. I walk in the light with the Spirit. I continue to spread the good news. I'm an asset to anybody that I come in contact with. And now I feel amazing because of the change of perspective that I had on the inside, guys. But when you're about to get out of treatment, all right, you have to stay very vigilant with your thoughts. You have to stay very vigilant with your program. And for me, I kept my eyes on the Lord, and he's carried me through, and the momentum that I gained, I continue to keep the momentum going. It's the same thing with anything. Once we get momentum, we got to keep the momentum going. It's the most powerful thing in the world. If I was doing good in baseball, I kept the momentum going, and I would continue to have a good season. So what are your feelings, and how do you feel when you first got out of treatment, and how you continued the momentum to stay successful?
Yeah, well, like you're telling, the Salvation Army program, it's a highly structured program. It's a 6-month program. Okay, so while you're there, it's what I refer to as sobriety behind the wall. Mm-hmm. I never found it difficult to stay sober while I was in the program.
Yeah,
like you were just speaking about, once you get out, even if you are moving to sober living, there's a good deal more freedom than you've been accustomed to. Mm-hmm. You do have to stay vigilant. I basically followed almost the exact same path as you did. As soon as in your 5th month, you get internet access. I was on the internet. I had a job basically that started the day I walked out of there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I made sure that whatever job that I took, because I'd been guilty of that in the past, I get a job that I can work 80 hours a week at, chasing the money.
Yeah.
Anything that I was going to do was going to have to be conducive to my sobriety. I still had to be able to make my meetings. I still had to be able to live. I couldn't just live to work. That's just a recipe for going back, because if you're working as much, as I was accustomed to working, you're just not going to be able to work a program. It's going to go by the way. It's going to be the most important thing. For anyone that's going to work a successful program, you have God first and you have recovery second. Over your job, over your relationships, over everything else. Because if you don't have those two in line, then nothing else is going to work. If you're an alcoholic like I am, and you are not in recovery, it's just a matter of time. So it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how much stuff you get. You're not going to be able to keep it.
Amen.
It's just going to go away. So that's why my priorities were in line. Mm-hmm. I'm basically following the same path you are, Monty, almost down to the same job.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, it's I can look at you and kind of see which way my path is going, as long as I stay in fit spiritual condition, like we talk about. But yeah, I mean, the Salvation Army program, it's, they make you tuck in your shirt. They make you shave every day. There's a lot of structure that a lot of guys aren't okay with, and its point is to build discipline. That is the strength of that program. Yeah. You have to be a disciplined person. If you're going to work, a successful program of recovery, it requires a bit of discipline. And the Salvation Army understands that. That's why those rules are the way they are.
Yeah.
When I'm talking to guys there, if they're frustrated with, I still got 4 more months to go, I'm tired of tugging in my shirt, this and that. It's like, look, it's means to an end, okay? I mean, do the means justify the end?
Yeah.
Think about it. Is what you're getting out of this, is where you're going to be when this is done, worth what you're having to do now?
Yeah,
of course it is.
No, I love that. It's like it's like I said, if the addict's happy with you, you're probably enabling them.
Sure,
the Salvation Army doesn't enable you at all, man, and it's just a blessing. No. I absolutely love that place. So, man, I'm super thankful to hear your story, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I want to give you a last minute to be able to just share out with the audience. Just give a little bit of hope out there, and just talk about to fresh addict. We want to reach the addict in early recovery, so they'll continue to watch the podcast and they can go to 90 episodes in 90 weeks, and just share what something that you would have told yourself in early recovery.
I think the important thing is, and with me, but I suffered a lot longer than I had to because of what we were talking about today. I would refuse to accept it, and I wouldn't surrender. my sponsor is fond of saying, look, only you know if you are really truly an alcoholic or not, or an addict. And if you are, it has to be addressed. Okay, the problem will not fix itself, and you will end up in jails, institutions, or death. The program of recovery that I work, the Alcoholics Anonymous program, rarely have we seen anyone fail to follow this path. It has worked for me, and is continuing to work for me. And again, nobody believed in it less than I did. Sometimes you just got to try it, whether you think it's going to work or whether you don't. You may get to that point anyway. That's how it was for me. I tried so hard. There's a part in the book that says we tried, drinking only on weekends, drinking only beer, drinking this. I tried all those plus another 3,000 different ways.
Right.
Anything I could to try to not do it the way it's designed to do. That would be my advice to anyone that's seeking recovery. Don't do that. Just go ahead and do it the way it's designed that way for a reason. It works. It really does. So get down to, don't be afraid of doing it. Don't be afraid of doing the work. It is worth it.
Amen.
Again, I don't know where I'd be without it. I'm glad I actually survived where I got to the point where I finally did say, look, I have to do this the way it's designed the right way. And today I live a life of recovery the way it's supposed to be, and never been happier. So.
Amen, man. Thank you so much, Brian, for coming on and sharing your experience.
Oh, thank you.
And I love you, bro. I love you, and I will continue to pray for you. I'm pretty sure that this is going to sink into somebody's heart, and you're going to save somebody's life, man. We thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be rooting for you in your recovery.
Thank you.
What up, guys? That concludes episode 2, baby. I know I got something out of that. I hope you guys got something out of that, man. Hey, I got to ask just a small favor. If you guys can send a little bit of a donation, because we got to keep the lights on. You know what I'm saying? We got to pay our editor, man. I don't ask for much, man. If you can just put $1 in the bio right here, in the bio in the link, if you can put $1 right there. And if you have $100, man, give 50 to the homeless community, and then give 50 to us, man. And for us, we will give out a shout out to every person that donates. And for the person that donates the most, guys, we will have a little bit of a bang bang party, baby. Next week's episode is going to be on fear, episode 3. Please continue to tune in each week. Like I said, we're going to do 90 episodes in 90 weeks, and we will continue to share the good news, guys. Thank you guys so much. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell, baby. And hey, remember, all week, let's have a sober week. And remember, just for today, because today matters. Let's go, baby. I heard that a trailer unlatched and flew down the mountain and crushed a car. Is that what we got?
Yeah, it actually wasn't. Okay,
Stay sober. Stay sober. Stay sober, my friends.